This is Richard Cockhill, Forest Schools Level 3, Unit 2, 1.2, doing a tool talk on knives. My knife is on my hip. If it's not on my hip, then it'll be in a designated toolbox or a designated safe area. Always known where you're keeping your knife at all times. We keep our knives sharp and clean because that's safer than a blunt knife. A sharp knife you'll cut with ease and confidence, whereas a blunt knife you have to put in more force to cut, and that disengages confidence and makes the work more dangerous. When I take my knife out of its sheath, I pinch my sheath, knowing that the cutting edge is away from my hand, and I draw it out slowly with confidence, keeping the cutting edge away from my hand. When I'm using my knife, I want 2 arms width around me in all directions and the tool width, including above my head. Not that we should be doing that, but it's a good idea. When I pass my knife, which is rare, I hold the handle, and I pass the handle to my partner, but with my knife off the center of my body. That way if it gets knocked, it's going away from me, not into me. We'll go through several cutting techniques, but when I finish with my knife, it goes back in my sheath, safe to go and do other tasks. If I have to lay my knife down for any reason, it'll go onto something, not onto the earth, with the blade pointing towards me. Either that or onto a work surface again with the blade pointing towards me. When I cut with my knife, I like to use a block. This could be a fallen tree, or in this case a sort of penny slot from some forest management that went on earlier. What we don't want is to work within the triangle of our legs. If we work here, we risk cutting the legs, and inside the legs and the inner thigh is the femoral artery, and if that gets severed, that's very bad news and ambulance territory. We do have a first aid kit which can deal with big bleeds, but best avoided. Wherever possible, it is best to work to the side of your body or over the tool. Over the tool in the work. However, not a good idea to put your weight onto the tool. If that breaks, you're falling onto a knife. So although we might be working over the top, or better yet to the side, we're not putting weight on the work. If we are in a sitting position, again, very important that we work to the side or beyond the scope of our legs or anything else. We also need to make sure that anything around us isn't going to get harmed, any equipment or people. Whenever we're cutting, we cut away from our hands or any other part of our body. When we cut, we're just going to do some shavings of wood here. I'll clean the bark off this piece of twig, a bit of willow. We use the part of the blade closest to the knuckles. That gives us maximum control of the blade, whereas if we handle it towards the point, we end up moving around a lot. There's a number of different techniques that we can use. We can work from the elbow and the wrist, and we can cut like so. And we can work that at the side of our body as well. Watching that we don't bang our knuckles on the wood block. We can work to the side of that if necessary. What has been shown in the Forest Schools technique is to use the shoulder. So rather than moving at the elbow, is to move more confident grips at the shoulder, where I have a lot of control over the blade and we don't have a lot of unnecessary energy wasting. If we need to, for instance, sharpen the end of a stick, we can do this several ways. We can work away from our body using bold cuts to sharpen the stick, or we can bring the blade in using our chest as a lever with a knife in a reverse grip to be quite controlled. This is very good because it doesn't send the knife off in large arcs, and we can work in quite close quarters to each other to make things. Another small technique that can be used is, rather than moving the knife to cut the wood, we can use the knee as a block and move the wood itself. We don't have massive amounts of control on this, although it's very good for kind of pointing a stick. But what it's very good for is if we want to make shavings for the fire. We can have quite bold cuts, and it's very safe because the knife itself is not moving. Whenever I pick up a piece of work that I'm going to use my knife or any tool on, I'll check the work itself, that it doesn't have things like nails in it, if it has any knots or pins in it that they're going to upset the stroke of my knife. Before I work, I will also check my knife that it's not pitted or rusty or in any damaged state at all. And before I put it away, I will also make sure that it's clean and there's no tree sap or bits of bark or anything like that stuck to it going into my sheath. I remember my pinchy grip, the knife goes in and is secured. Thanks very much.